Hello everyone, welcome to GSS Core. This is Ajay Shah. So let us start the discussion of 10 MCQs from current affairs. And today we are going to discuss all the MCQs from Economic Survey of India, which is quite important from prelims point of view. So let's start the discussion. So this is the first question for you. And the first question is on recent data on startups released by Economic Survey. The first statement says, India ranked first in the number of new firms created across the globe. So this statement is wrong because as per the Economic Survey report, India ranked third in the number of new firms created throughout the globe. The second statement says birth of new firms is homogeneous across Indian districts and across sectors. So this statement is also wrong because birth of new firms is very heterogeneous across Indian districts and across sectors, and it's not homogeneous. So both statement 1 and 2 are wrong. So neither 1 and nor 2, that is D, will be the correct answer here. So now some validation. So as per the report on entrepreneurship and wealth creation at the grassroots level by Economic Survey, the report says that the Startup India campaigning of the Government of India recognizes entrepreneurship as an increasingly important strategy to fuel productivity growth and wealth creation in the country. India has been ranked third in the number of new firms created. Now the Economic Survey of India says that we have some positive news, some good news, because as per the recent data, new firms creation in India has gone up dramatically in India after 2014, that is after emergence of Modi government. The report says that new firm creation in the services is significantly higher than that in manufacturing, infrastructure or agriculture. Now, as per the report, entrepreneurship at the bottom level, that means at the level of district, has a significant impact on the wealth creation at the grassroots level. The report also draw a link between literacy, education and entrepreneurship. And as per the report, the eastern part of the India has lowest literacy rate, that is 59.6%. And also the region is lowest in terms of new firm creation. The report also says that the level of local education and the quality of physical infrastructure in the district influences new firm creation very significantly. That's all. Now, question number 2, with reference to relationship between entrepreneurship and GDP as stated in Economic Survey of India. The first statement says entrepreneurs are seen as an agents of change that accelerate innovation in the country. So by using common sense, you can say this statement is correct. The second statement says on a per capita basis, India has high rates of entrepreneurship in the formal sector as compared to the informal economy. So this appears to be true, but this is not true. This is factually wrong because as per the Economic Survey, on a per capita basis, India has low rates of entrepreneurship in the formal economy as compared to the informal economy. Now the third statement says peninsular states dominate entry of new firms compared to other parts of the country. This statement is correct. So 1 and 3 are right. So C will be the correct answer here. Now some validation. So entrepreneurship are seen as agents of change that accelerate innovation in the country. And as per the Economic Survey, on a per capita basis, India has a low rates of entrepreneurship in formal economy. A large number of India's enterprises operate in informal economy, which is not captured in this data. That is data of Economic Survey. It also says that entrepreneurship has a significant positive impact on GDP, and peninsular states dominate entry of new firms entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is dispersed across the India, and it is not concentrated or restricted to just few metropolitan cities as believed by most of the people. Now the third question to you, with reference to a spatial heterogeneity in entrepreneurial activity based on Economic Survey, we have to consider the statement. The first statement says all the regions demonstrate a strong growth in entrepreneurial activity with the exception of eastern states. So this statement is correct. The second statement says entrepreneurial activity in the agriculture sector is higher in Manipur and Meghalaya. This statement is also correct because Manipur and Meghalaya, they have a massive base of organic agriculture farms. The third says manufacturing sector is highest in the regions of Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. This statement appears to be true, but this statement is wrong because manufacturing sector is highest in the region of Gujarat, Meghalaya, Puducherry, Punjab and Rajasthan. So only 1 and 2 are the correct answer. So A will be the correct answer here. Now some validation. So as per the report on a spatial heterogeneity and entrepreneurship activity, the report says the impact of new firms entry is greatest in the manufacturing and service sector. All regions demonstrate a strong growth in the entrepreneurial activity over the time with the exception of eastern states. Now the report says agriculture sectors are not geographically localized and seem to be distributed evenly across most districts of the country. The report says northeast states are more likely to be private enterprises in the food businesses such as organic produce farms and tea plantation. Majority of establishment in Madhya Pradesh and Odisha are farmer producer companies. Now manufacturing sector is highest in regions of Gujarat, Meghalaya, Puducherry, Punjab and Rajasthan. As per the report, the states with inflexible labor laws, inflexible labor laws such as West Bengal, then Assam, then Jharkhand, Kerala, Bihar, these states are classified in lowest quintiles of entrepreneurial activity, and Gujarat labor reforms are viewed as pro-worker as per the economic survey. That's all. We'll move to the next question. The entrepreneurial intensity is significantly higher for the developed economies, while it is also growing across all the countries except a country of South America, which is that country Argentina, Peru, Chile, Brazil. So the correct answer is Brazil. Fine. So this is a very factual question. We'll move to the next question. So this question is with relation to liberalization of India, economic liberalization. So the first statement says liberalization of Indian economy has enabled the forces of creative destruction. So this statement is correct. You can appreciate this statement only when you know the meaning of forces of creative destruction. I will tell you what is that. The second statement says Sensex has grown at an accelerating pace post market reforms introduced in 90s. This statement is also correct. Both statement 1 and 2 are correct. C is the correct answer. Now some value addition. So liberalization of Indian economy in 1991 unleashed competitive markets and it enabled the forces of creative destruction, generating benefits that we still witness today. Now what is this creative destruction? So forces of creative destruction is nothing but it is an innovative idea, innovative economic system which basically replace outdated and old economic system what we witnessed in our economic liberalization. Now as per the report, after the market reforms of 1991, Sensex has not only grown but it has grown at accelerating pace, and we can divide the growth of Sensex into three phases after 1999. The phase 1 from 1999 to 2007 so acceleration of the growth. Phase 2, that is 2007 to 2014, so slowdown, and phase 3 which began in 2014, it saw a revival in response to structural reforms and improvement in the global liquidity. That's all. So question number 6. So the first statement says the share of financial and information technology sectors in the total market capitalization has increased over the last 2 decades. So this is very correct after economic liberalization. The second statement says Herfindahl index is used to analyze degree of competition within the 2 sectors. Fine. This word is not appropriate. Sectors. Okay. So this statement is also correct. Both statement 1 and 2 are correct. Now your value addition. So after liberalization in the Indian economy, there has been a rise in the new sectors such as financial and information technology, and virtually non-existent in the census of the early 90s. The share of these 2 sectors in the total market capitalization has increased over the years, so much so that these sectors basically dominate the Sensex today. Now rising share of market capitalization has been accomplished by a rise in the number of companies rather than rise in the size of incumbents, suggesting greater competition within these sectors, and this comparison can be made by using Herfindahl index. That's all. Now this question is a very good question. This question is about Dutch disease in economics. Fine. So there are 4 statements and we have to choose the correct statement. The first says it's a phenomena wherein countries that are rich in natural resources witness uneven growth across the sectors. The second says it can affect exchange of rates of currency of resource rich country. Coal mine sector in India suffered from this disease from 1993 to 2011. So in this question, all the statements are correct. D is the correct answer here. So now some validation. So what is this Dutch disease in economics? So Dutch disease basically refers to the phenomena wherein countries that are rich in natural resources witness uneven growth across the sectors. We can take the example of Jharkhand, and we can even take the examples of all the African countries which are quite rich in natural resources. But we can witness uneven growth across Jharkhand also and across African countries also. Now, according to this thesis, that is this Dutch disease thesis, when resources-rich countries export their resources in the rest of the world, it causes the exchange or rate of their currency to appreciate significantly. This in turn affects other sectors in the country by discouraging their exports while encouraging the import of cheaper alternatives. Now, this term was coined by the economics in 1997 to describe the decline of the manufacturing industry in the Netherlands. Now, Economic Survey of India explains this in the chapter of pro-business plus versus pro-crony, that how political connections used in gaining the allocation of resources affects the economy. It gives the example of coal mines allocation. So you might be aware about that coal politics, coal scheme and all, which was basically seen in terms of crony capitalism in our country. So that's all. Now this question number 8. The recent economic survey suggests promoting pro-business policies to unleash the power of competitive markets to generate wealth and to wean away pro-crony policies. In this context, consider the following statements. So you might have read this word crony capitalism multiple times in the newspaper. Basically, this term has been used many times by the political parties to defame their other political parties. So let's see. The first statement says, pro-crony policies promote preferential treatment to some incumbent firms, making resources allocation efficient in the economy. So this statement is wrong, because pro-crony policies, it makes resource allocation not efficient but inefficient. So first statement is wrong. Second says pro-business policies maximize the citizens' welfare. So that's very correct. Pro-business policies maximize the citizen welfare, but that should not be crony capitalism. So only B is the correct answer. So 2 is the correct statement. So B will be the correct answer here. Now some validation. So as per Economic Survey of India, India's aspiration to become a $5 trillion economy depends critically on promoting pro-business policy that unleashes the power of competitive markets to generate wealth on one hand, but on the other hand, it also wean away the pro-crony policy that favors a specific private interest, especially powerful businessmen. Now, pro-crony policies supports incumbent firms but does not necessarily foster competitive market. On the other hand, policy that fosters competitive markets creates a level playing field for businesses to compete. It unleashes the powerful forces of creative destruction, which basically create wealth. That's all. So the thing is that we should go for pro-business policy, but that should not be pro-crony capitalism. Now question number 8. So this is again with reference to Essential Commodities Act 1955. We have statements. So the first statement says it is applicable only to agricultural commodities such as onions and pulses. So this statement is wrong, because Essential Commodities Act 1995 is applicable even to non-agricultural commodities such as drugs, petroleum and its products, etc. The second statement says it gives the central government the power to fix the price limits and regulate stock limits of essential goods. So this statement is wrong, because the power has been given to the state government, not the central government. The third says on an average, the conviction rate under the act is abysmally low at 2 to 4%. So this statement is correct. So 1 and 2 are incorrect statement. We have to choose incorrect statement. So A will be the correct answer here. Now some validation. So Essential Commodities Act 1955 was enacted to control the production, supply and distribution and trade and commerce in certain goods considered as essential commodities. Now the act itself does not lay out rules and regulations, but allows the state to issue control orders related to dealer licensing, regulating stock limits, restrict movements of goods and requirement of compulsory purchasing under the system of levy. The act also provides for action to confiscate the stock seized, to suspend, cancel licenses and impose punishments like imprisonment. And the act also gives the power to fix price limits, and the selling the particular commodities above the limit will attract penalties. Now most of the powers under the act have been delegated by the central government to the state government with the direction that they shall exercise this power. Now food and supply authorities in the state execute the provisions of this Act. The major commodity groups included in the Act are petroleum and petroleum products, then food stuff, then jute and jute textile, drugs, fertilizers, onion, potatoes, seeds and food crops, etc. That's all. Now this is the last question for you, and the question is about MAP. The term maximum allowable post-manufacturing expenses MAP, frequently seen in news, is related with agro-processing industries, pharmaceutical policies, automobile industries, data centers. Fine. Just a minute. Only this data centers. So the correct answer is pharmaceutical policies. So some validation. So what is this MAP? So I will explain you. The MRP of a drug is calculated using a formula that has been prescribed by DPCO, that is Drugs Price Control Order. Fine. Now the formula contains a variable element MAP, that is maximum allowable post manufacturing expenses, which is the sum of total of all the cost incurred by a manufacturer up to retailing and includes trade margin and margin for the manufacturer. So that's all for today. I hope you liked the class. Please like and subscribe our channel for more such videos. Thank you very much.